At-risk students on the brink of dropping out may feel like they have few options. I'm Jim Finnerty. California's continuation schools are the last resort for at-risk youth, but we'll show you one school that's giving these students hope.
The String Project is a unique program where teachers are benefiting as much as the students. I'm Christina Salerno. Let's introduce you to some college students working with youth to make beautiful music together on violins and cellos.
How do you get young people more involved in civics? I'm Sarah Gardner. One award-winning school made civics a critical part of the educational process in addressing local, state, and national issues. It's all coming up on Inside California Education.
So you are 18, are you going to register to vote?
Yes.
Funding for Inside California Education is made possible by, since 1985, the California Lottery has raised more than $30 billion for our public schools. It's a modest amount after dividing it up to California's 1,100 public school districts from kindergarten through high school, as well as community colleges, UC and CSU campuses. Still, these funds help attract quality teachers, provide classroom equipment, and keep art and music programs alive. With caring teachers, committed administrators, and active parents, every public school student can realize their dreams. The California Lottery. Imagine the possibilities. The Stewart Foundation, improving life outcomes for young people through education. Additional funding for Inside California Education is made possible by these organizations supporting public education.
Thanks for joining us on Inside California Education. Continuation schools are often the final option for students who, for any number of reasons, have been designated at risk for failure, at risk for dropping out. Teachers and administrators at some of these schools, sometimes called dumping grounds, are hoping to dump that perception. Let's visit Orange Grove High School, where some students are thinking about college and career for the very first time.
Well, what had happened was I gave a kid a taser, and then he got caught with it, and then he snitched me out. Well, told the cop that I had gave it to him, and yeah, I got sent here.
I would hear that Orange Grove was like a bunch of bad kids, fighting every day, and all this bad stuff about Orange Grove.
I was scared to come here, honestly. Like the things that my teachers at my old school would tell me about Orange Grove, and I just had like the thought in my head that this school was going to be trouble,
What I had heard was like a whole bunch of scary people come here, and so I was scared when I first got here. I was that quiet kid.
Truancy, substance abuse, poverty, homelessness. These are some of the difficult realities that lead thousands of California students to end up at one of the state's 467 continuation schools. The educators who are laboring to turn around these troubled young lives say they've been battling these realities for decades.
The first thing is what I thought was different when I first came here was the kids coming here to just to eat. I thought that was an eye-opening experience for me.
Punishments don't teach behavior. They don't teach you anything. They suppress behavior. And if there was any shred of evidence that worked, then we would be out of business, because these students have been punished to the nth degree.
Students searching for a way to break the cycle turn to tiny Orange Grove High School. Student body, fewer than 200.
I would stop going to school because I had like a bunch of anxiety, and then I started to self-harm myself, and my grades caught up with that, and I had like a bunch of Fs. And then I went to my SARB meeting with Dr. Illick, and he was there, and they said the best place for me would be Orange Grove.
Dr. Mike Illick and his office are charged with the difficult task of finding solutions for troubled kids that work for them, their families, and their schools. Sometimes those solutions mean coming here to Orange Grove for a semester or for years.
There's a changing face in continuation education. It's not like the old days where you put out the teachers that you don't like anymore and the principals that are just right on the edge of retiring, they're ineffective, and they're all at the continuation school.
We were responding to their behavior instead of the causes of their behavior. So we needed to take a step back and look at why were the kids behaving the way they were, understanding that most of our students come from backgrounds where they've suffered multiple traumas in life.
I don't have teachers here or don't have staff here that have to be here, that are miserable here, that are knocking down the door to get out. They have tons of love. They just open up their hearts to their kids and try and find out what their social and emotional needs are.
It's extremely important that the principals who take over those schools are principals who want to be there, not to be just put there, but they have to be there. They have to have the passion. They have to have the vision. And those principals need to hire their own teachers.
If you were going to say, like, here rests resentment, you would say, you know, full of heaviness and a weight on my shoulders that I don't want to carry anymore.
Jessie Fuller is the California League of Schools 2016 Educator of the Year. In her first class, she has her students creating tombstones and eulogies to bury bad habits. In another class, an exercise in the Socratic method for hashing out issues, an inner circle, an outer circle, a facilitator.
So, Chad makes the point that we are influenced by
she's probably my favorite.
Right?
She's like a second mother to me. I feel like I can always talk to her about stuff that isn't even about school. Like if I need advice for something or help, I know she'll always be there for me.
Our kids who I feel like are so, just literally one step away from dropping out, or a lot of times prison for our kids. I mean, we talk about the disruption of the school to prison pipeline, right? Thinking about that, I'm like, this is very real, because we see oh, a kid's here one day and then, oh, what happened to them? Oh, they're locked up. You know, it's so real here. So I think to disrupt that, you have to do things that are kind of very different than what the norm has been.
They might not act like it, but our students want consistency. They want consistency, and they want someone who's going to show up every day and be fair to everybody. It's for our most at-risk students, so it's the most at-risk of the most at-risk. And we try and create a nurturing environment, which is just trying to get them back on track, not educationally, but in life.
Recognizing that and paying for it are challenges not just for Orange Grove, but California schools in general. Things may be starting to improve. In 2014, the state's Local Control and Accountability Plan, LCAP, and a new funding formula offered school districts more say in teaching and funding for disadvantaged students.
Our state's taken a bigger approach to some of the socio-emotional pieces, and part of it's because of our new funding system with the LCAP and LCFF, because we're looking at low socioeconomic kids, we're looking at foster kids, and we're looking at English learners. And continuation schools have about, they have a higher percentage of those kids, so we really need to try and support those kids.
Even so, per student spending here in the Corona-Norco district remains slightly below the state average. The Orange Grove staff says more funding would be money wisely spent.
If we have to spend 15 grand on them to be in a rehab facility, that's money well spent if it keeps us from spending another $240,000 throughout the rest of their life because they're incarcerated.
Kenny Torres believes a few of those dollars would help his kids open up not just a textbook, but their whole world.
A lot of these kids haven't been out of the 3 square mile radius their entire life. And for us, some may say that that's not the school's role. Well, to us, we believe it is.
Just to ask a kid, what school do you want to go to? They're like, I'm not going to make it to college. But take a group of kids to a high ropes course on a college campus, eat in the cafeteria, and the kids are like, how do you get here?
This weekend, a cookout for hungry students may be coming out of the school's thin pocketbook.
Stuff for barbecue, and we'll just be ready to rock and roll. The staff says they'll help us serve.
I felt like if I wouldn't have came here, then I would have just kept going and I would have just failed. Probably dropped out. I'm glad I didn't though. Yeah, I got A+. I just got it a few days ago.
It's just more of a family here than at a regular high school, and it makes me feel more comfortable, and it makes me want to come to school.
After graduation, I want to go to college. I want to go to a 2-year, which would be, I was looking at Chaffee College over there in Rancho, and then I want to transfer to a 4-year, which I don't know what 4-year yet. So I need to figure that out.
We can't control what happens outside of our sphere of influence. But if we have them for 6 hours, we can do something. We can teach them the social skills. We can teach them that they can break the cycle that's been going on maybe for several generations in their families. We can do that, and we have to do that. It's socially imperative that we do that.
The history of continuation education is closely aligned with compulsory schooling in the United States. Massachusetts in 1852 was the first state to require children to attend public school. Other states followed, and by 1919, California passed a compulsory education law for students up to the age of 16. That same year, California established its first continuation school to offer an alternative schedule for students who held jobs.
The student and teacher relationship is important when it comes to learning how to play a musical instrument. But what if both of them were learning something during the teaching process? That's the idea behind a program called the String Project at California State University, Sacramento.
The String Project is a program in which children, typically 3rd through 7th graders, study violin and cello from the beginning with university students. The university students are trained in teaching children by master teachers.
Stop. You can't be behind.
Because we have world-class string teacher trainers as our master teachers, we're training the children to play the instruments really well and effectively.
Growing up as a student, as a music student, I never saw myself in the teacher's shoes. Like, I didn't even want to be in those shoes because I saw how hard it was and I saw how much they had to push me to practice. But it just sort of came, and I love teaching. Here, there's like 15 kids and you have to grab their attention, all of them. And you're standing in front of them, you have to teach all of them. And it's hard because it's not a student ratio of 1-to-1, it's a student-teacher ratio of like 15-to-1.
I'm professor of cello and chamber music here at Cal State Sacramento School of Music, and I am the founder and the director of the String Project. There is nationwide a severe shortage of teachers, and that's what started the String Project movement. What we're finding is the students, the university students who've had String Project training, all are getting full-time jobs teaching, multiple offers. The Cal State Sacramento String Project is part of a national consortium of string projects. There are about 35 of these at universities around the U.S. Our program is one of 2 or 3 that focuses on offering the opportunity for kids from underserved backgrounds to get lessons.
On a personal level, I have always felt that the arts are an important thing. In the area that I work, in the Robles School District, which is a very, very high poverty part of the city of Sacramento, our student population is over 90% free and reduced. That's the federal poverty level. And that becomes a characteristic of certain aspects of their lives, one of which is that their parents do not have the resources to take them to musical instrument lessons. And so our school district, I think, over time has learned that we can take responsibility for that. We think it's that important. We offer to pay the registration fees, either through district funds or the Education Foundation for the first 2 semesters. And then we also have now purchased instruments that the district owns that we can loan to our students at no cost.
I actually started in a program pretty similar to this. Coming from a program like this, it's always been rooted in me to do the same, to be able to allow kids to have the same opportunities that I did growing up, because I know that a lot of kids don't. And I feel very, very fortunate because everything I got for free, and I know that a lot of people struggle to pay for the cost of music.
We typically have about 80 children studying in the string project. That's 20 or so from Robles, so that's about a quarter of the children in the program. And the rest come from anywhere and everywhere.
My son is Caden, and he's 10, and he's been playing the violin. This is his second year in the string project.
Yeah, just a little bit.
The other programs that we had looked into were more expensive and more time consuming, and this one kind of fit more into our schedule because you get little breaks throughout the school year, and then it's also more affordable. You just pay one semester fee as opposed to a monthly fee. Our other big seller was it's at a college campus. So not only is my son being exposed and learning how to play the violin, but he's being exposed to college and what a college campus looks like and what it feels like, and he can feel comfortable when he's here.
It's cool because I might go here one day, and it's cool to see lots of other kids.
They get to see music majors, and they get to see us being taught by master teachers how to teach. It's very special because they get the chance to play on the university stage, like in the concert hall. At a very, very young age, they get to experience all of this.
For their parents, their aunts, their uncles who come to the concerts, it's often the first time that they've come on a campus, and they have a feeling of ownership. It's life-changing for some of these families. There's no way in the world they would have had a chance to have violin or cello or get to know the music of Mozart or Beethoven, and these families are really excited about what it's doing for their children.
The cello was invented in 16th century Italy, shortly after the violin and viola. It was originally called the violoncello, which means small big viola. It took about 200 years after its invention before the cello was taken seriously as a solo instrument. Ludwig van Beethoven is credited with composing the first true cello sonatas, writing 5 pieces for the cello and piano. The words "Between Tears and Sadness" appear on the manuscript of his most familiar cello sonata.
Still ahead on Inside California Education, getting students interested and involved in the political activities in their community. But first, a little Education 101 as we ask an expert, in light of the teacher shortage, are there new paths to becoming a teacher?
What we're trying to do is actually create more pathways. And so one of the things that we're working on now is what we call integrated pathways. For students right now in a traditional program, they would have to take 4 years of undergraduate work and then an additional year, maybe even year and a half of a teacher preparation program. So what we are developing more and more is what we call integrated programs, so that the students can still take their undergraduate degree in liberal studies or child development, but at the same time, they're taking teacher preparation coursework, doing field experiences, doing student teaching, so that at the end of 4 years, they'll walk away both with an undergraduate degree and with the teaching credential for elementary teaching. It's going to be less expensive and less time-consuming to do an integrated program. Or we can rearrange the scope and sequence of the program, so perhaps they can be what we call intern ready sooner. And what we mean by that is they get a special intern credential that we recommend them for, and they can actually go out and be the teacher of record in an elementary school, in a secondary school, while at the same time they can take the remainder of their coursework at the university. That would be a huge help for districts because they wouldn't have to then find 100 credentialed teachers. Maybe they would have to find fewer credentialed teachers and then hire several on intern credentials. But then you would still have teachers in front of students to be able to teach them for the year.
Recent elections have shown how critical the political process is in affecting the choices we have as a society. And educators say that an informed electorate comes only from citizens being involved. One school in the city of Brawley is helping to ensure that involvement from an early age.
title of the person in the city? It's not the president, it's the what? The mayor.
When it comes to voting, millennials continue to have the lowest voter turnout of any age group. That's one reason why teacher Jose Flores thinks this civics education class is so important.
Civic engagement has to be taught explicitly, and that's a big challenge because sometimes our students now don't see the context of why it is important, but it permeates every part of our society.
Brawley Union High School in Imperial County is a model when it comes to teaching students about civic engagement. For his efforts, Flores was recognized by federal education officials in Washington, D.C., where he received a Presidential Environmental Education Award.
My passion for environmental education derives from engaging students in relevant phenomena within their community.
Back in Brawley, Flores often takes students on field trips to places like the city council chambers to meet local officials face to face.
As lifelong residents and as new residents to Brawley, we want the best for you and for the city of Brawley.
Personally, I don't like reading from books and sitting around looking at a book and writing notes continuously. I'd rather be involved in something, and this class was more that.
Meeting like all the people here at the city council and interacting with them, because before this class, I didn't know who they were or, the reasons why. They actually do a lot for the city.
The exposure to coming to our council meetings and knowing how you can make a difference starts now.
All these doors are open for my students, and these people mentor my students. And the most important thing is not only that my students know these people, it's even more important that those individuals in power or in positions of influence know my students. So we're trying to bridge the gap of having people become lawyers, doctors, engineers, which maybe in the past they would never consider. So by being mentored by these individuals, they see it a little bit more doable.
It's getting away from just textbook learning and providing students with an opportunity to see what's happening in the real world.
Or Mr. Mayor, why don't we ask them a question? Just by raise of hands, how many of you are going to college? You're seniors now, how many of you are going to college?
School administrators encouraged Flores to expand his civics education classes to the outside world from the very start.
I said, this is what I want you to do. I want you to do away with traditional instruction. I don't want to see textbooks. I want to see you interacting with the students. I want them involved. I want them engaged. I want them out in the community. And he was like, I'm ready. Let's do this.
These activities, these opportunities, gives them a voice in the community. Those are the things that open their eyes to how democracy works, and it brings them home.
Obviously, a lot of you are very knowledgeable in terms of what air pollution is.
For other field trips, Flores finds experts to talk about controversial issues in the region. Students here are being briefed on pollution problems at the Salton Sea, about 20 miles north of Brawley.
The state of California said in the water transfer agreement that they would restore the Salton Sea. And to date, we haven't seen any progress with that.
By exposing students to local issues, Flores hopes they will take action in their community.
I applied the knowledge that I've learned from my civics class to home. For instance, I probably get a more understanding coming from a civics class because I'm actually involved, and my parents are outdated on information that I'm learning now.
I think that Mr. Flores, what he's done, I think, by creating this program and giving so many students civic learning opportunities, is that our community is becoming a more informed and engaged community.
Brawley's efforts to immerse students in current events goes beyond the civics class. There's also a popular civics club with more than 100 members. It was originally created to help Spanish-speaking students learn English, but now has a much broader mission.
So now it's a whole movement across our campus where everybody's involved in this whole civics movement.
Right, so obviously, are you 18 years old?
No.
You're going to be 18?
Yeah.
So when you are 18, are you going to register to vote?
Yes.
Back in his classroom, Jose Flores gives his seniors one further assignment, one he hopes they will covet for the rest of their lives. He has them register to vote.
We make a strong push to engage and show them the correlation that they have to have a voice, whether they, again, win an election or lose an election, for whoever they support. they have to have a voice in that election process.
That's going to do it for this edition of Inside California Education. If you'd like more information about the program, just log on to our website, insidecaled.org. We have video from all of our shows, and you can connect with us on social media as well. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on Inside California Education.
We'll just be ready to rock and roll. The staff says they'll help us serve.
My passion for environmental education derives from engaging students in relevant phenomena within their community.
Funding for Inside California Education is made possible by, since 1985, the California Lottery has raised more than $30 billion for our public schools. It's a modest amount after dividing it up to California's 1,100 public school districts from kindergarten through high school, as well as community colleges, UC and CSU campuses. Still, these funds help attract quality teachers, provide classroom equipment, and keep art and music programs alive. With caring teachers, committed administrators, and active parents, every public school student can realize their dreams. The California Lottery. Imagine the possibilities. The Stewart Foundation, improving life outcomes for young people through education. Additional funding for Inside California Education is made possible by these organizations supporting public education.